sets are kind of unique. I take a look at a problem, I take it apart to its component parts, I solve what's wrong, and I put it back together again. And that's how I go about business. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm currently chairman of the Board of Communities and Schools, which is a dropout prevention program that works one-on-one with at-risk students to give them what they need to succeed and graduate. Whether it's tutoring, counseling, mentoring, we have a backpack program. We give them eyeglasses. We give them sneakers. We have coat closets. We have classrooms where the homeless can go during the day to do their homework assignments, and we give them the supplies to complete class projects. We're in 2 high schools. We're in Hernando High School and Central High, and this year we were asked to come into Springstead High School, which dropped a grade rating, because of their at-risk population wasn't meeting state standards. And that's important. John was talking about, and people alluded to the budgets. Part of the funding formula deals with the rating of the school. The higher the rating an individual school is, the more money per student we get. So you have Springstead dropping the grade level, they're losing income. So Susan Duvall, when she was the principal, asked us to come in, community schools to come in to address that problem, and we're going to be doing that starting this fall. In being involved in communities and schools, I looked at some of the other problems facing the school district. We have a 26% non-graduation rate after 5 years of high school. What are these kids going to do? 40% roughly of our students do not go on to further their education. 20%, or half of those kids, cannot find jobs. They don't have the skills. What we have to do is go to the employers and ask the employers, what skills do you need from your employees in the next 5 to 10 years, and teach the kids the skills they need to succeed. These aren't the students that are going to go on to college. They're going to be fine in life. They'll make out. What do we do with the kids that don't graduate, the kids that don't find jobs? What are they going to do? Do you think they're going to sit home and do nothing on their parents' couches? Do you think a lot of those kids are going to be incarcerated? Do you think a lot of those girls are going to have babies out of wedlock and get on public assistance? I do. If you look at the statistics, it supports it. We're 57 out of 67 counties in per student funding from federal and state sources. That's unacceptable. That's horrible. The state controls how the federal resources are allocated. We get somewhere around $8,200 a year per student. There's other counties that get $13,000 a student. Why are we on the bottom of the list? Why have we been on the bottom of the list for the last 8 years under the current school board? That has got to change. How do you change that? Well, if we go to Tallahassee with 120,000 voters or so, they're going to laugh at us. If we get together with 5 or 6 or 7 of the little school districts and represent 1 million or 1.5 million voters and say, we don't like this, maybe they'll listen to us. Maybe we'll get that change and we'll get a bigger piece of the pie. We're supporting school districts in Pinellas and Hillsborough County with our tax dollars. The current ad valorem, you're paying 43.8% of that for education. We do not get that money back in Hernando County. We need to get it back here. Those are the issues that I look at. I'm not all talk. I have solutions. One of the things I looked at was the busing problem. I looked specifically at J.D. Floyd. When they did away with the courtesy busing because the school district could no longer afford the $1 million a year it took to bus the students who live within the 2 miles, which the state does not pay for. There's 455 students in J.D. Floyd living within 2 miles. That was an extra 300 cars a day dropping kids off at school, a school that was designed to hold 20 to 30 buses. That line in the morning is an hour and a half long and an hour and a half at night for the parents to drop the kids off and pick them up. They started dropping them off in the street, in the neighborhood. It got to be hectic. The sheriff came by and started issuing tickets. That's out of control. I looked at this and said, there's got to be a solution. So I thought, and the school district deemed it a hub. We have a separate location where the parents can drop the students off, take a bus and shuttle them to the school. I talked to Dennis Dix at the MPO. He loved it. He was doing cartwheels. I talked to Len Sossman. I talked to Brian Mallory, the county engineer. I talked to Dr. Romano, and I got a cost from Doug Compton. The cost to save this problem, 4 buses, for a year, is $1,258 a bus. That's $5,000. Eliminates a whole problem. Wow. Who would think of that? It went before the school board. They had a little discussion about it, and they legaled it to death. There's a liability issue. Well, if there's not a safety issue where a child's going to get hurt, we have liability insurance for that, don't we? And can't a child fall down at school and get hurt as well? I don't understand it. Anyway, that was one solution. I went to a conference up in FSU in February on 3D manufacturing and printing. And oh my God, it's the wave of the future. They had an example where if this was a mug and it fell on the floor and broke, at some point you'd be able to go to your computer, pull up that identical object, and print it at home and have it in your hands. The reality is, it's going to change how we manufacture goods in America. There will not be a need to have an inventory of parts. You can take your car, if you have a damaged left front fender on a 62 Corvair and scan the right one, invert it, and you now have a new fender. The dealership doesn't have to stock a part. Boeing is putting 7 million fuel injections that they're printing into aircraft motors. They're using other components other than plastic. They're using composites. I went to this and I came back. Troy LaBarbera over at WikiWatcher was starting a gaming program at WikiWatcher this year for his engineering program. I said, fantastic. I got him a 3D printer. One of the things he's doing in his module is he's starting to teach 3D manufacturing to his students. Now, they're going to make a game. They'll be able to package it because they can make the case it fits in. And they can make the action figures that go with the game and sell them in the school and teach marketing skills. And this is starting this year at WikiWatcher High School. This will eventually go into adult education so we can get certification, because CPOMS does not have a certification program in 3D manufacturing, and they're looking for a school district to take the lead. We can take that lead. Another example with that particular industry is Invisalign. Everybody knows Invisalign? Have you seen the commercials on television? When you get a cast made of your mouth from Invisalign, they scan that into a computer and it goes off to wherever they are. And they have a technician who makes 10 or 15 corrections in a 3D program, and they print out the corrective braces that they mail you back. We can be doing that here in Hernando County. We can set the standards for the state. How do we fund it? We take a look at Lakeland. Lakeland has a deal with JetBlue, with their engineering program. JetBlue comes in and finances the education of the students to go on to college to become engineers. And then they get on the planes as flight engineers and co-pilots. They're going to lose 80,000 pilots in the next 10 years, and they need to have replacements. We can use that model and fund a program here and get a company to come here, and we can get people in Hernando employed by using the school district the way it should be used. We need to get back to teaching basic vocational technical skills. You have the builders crying, we're not building enough. And when they get to work, we don't have enough tradespeople. Well, why isn't there an apprenticeship program? Why isn't there a developed BOCES program as there was up north? And I'm not professing everything that goes on up north is good or bad. They had a program where the students for 4 hours a day went to a vocational or technical school, learned a trade. And the other 4 hours they went to their zone school. And another class went the other half of the day. And they learned relevant, employable skills. They learned cosmetology, they learned auto mechanics, they learned HVAC, they learned electricity, they learned how to be plumbers. And then they had jobs waiting with companies who were willing to sponsor them. Why don't our builders take up the lead? Why don't they take the forefront and help us? We need local control. We need to get Tallahassee out of the education process. Tallahassee controls the federal government. When you have federal programs, they're always administered by the states. I worked for a while in the Access Program, which is food stamps and Medicaid. That was a federal program administered by the states. That's how the flow goes. We got to get Tallahassee out of this. We got to get rid of these unfair funded mandates that eat up our tax dollars. We're paying for programs that they put in place so they look good. That's not the way it works. Common Core won't work. In my opinion, my granddaughter goes to a school that's highly motivated and functional. She had a problem, 3 + 1 = 4. They gave my daughter 5 pages of background to explain this problem. All right. Fortunately, my daughter was able to help my granddaughter with this. But what happens to the 50% of the homes in America that are broken when there's only one parent who doesn't know better, can't help, isn't able to help, or doesn't want to help? Those children will fail. And then our school system will fail. And then it'll be privatized. And then you have corporations making money on the education that we'll still have to pay for at a higher cost. I am for local control. I don't like Common Core. It's a mandate. We have to change the mandate.